Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on The Flash Season 7. This will be my ending explained video for The Flash Season 7, Episode 5, titled Fear Me. So during this video, I'll be going over what happened with the Speed Force, and I'll be going over the whole Force storyline, and I'll be theorizing about what will potentially happen. I'll be going over Cisco's nightmare and what Psych may have potentially showed Cisco, and why us as the audience didn't end up seeing Cisco's nightmare, but we ended up seeing Frost and Barry's nightmare. And also I'll be going over that Joe West CCPD storyline as well. But yeah, last episode, great episode. It was such a great episode. I really enjoyed it. I really liked Psych as a villain. He was such a great villain in my opinion. I really liked it. The whole Force storyline is getting even more interesting as we go on. So I'm very invested with this whole Force's storyline, and I just cannot wait to see more. I just think it's awesome, especially with Psych. I was really looking forward to Psych, and it definitely delivered. Now guys, I have done a review and breakdown for episode 5 of the season, so if you guys want to check that out, it will be linked in the description down below, or I'll place a card at the top right hand corner, so you guys could obviously click that and view my review and breakdown if you guys want to see my overall thoughts on pretty much every scene of the episode. Now, in episode 4, we obviously explored the Strength Force with Frueza, and last episode, we explored the Sage Force with Psych. Now, from the trailer of next week's episode, or the coming episode, it seems like we are exploring the Still Force with Steadfast, and my trailer breakdown for episode 6 will be up after this video. But before I go over anything, however, you guys don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. Okay, so firstly, I will start off this ending explained video by going over the whole Speed Force ending and some theories I have about it. So during the episode, we obviously found out that the way Team Flash are able to locate these Force users are by some geothermic isotope readings, which allow Team Flash to know where these Force users' recent whereabouts are and where they are going to appear if they are to appear in a certain area. So whenever they appear, we get these multiple different lightning colors, and they just appear in their embodied forms, if that makes sense. So during episode 4, we obviously had the lightnings, and then we had the earthquakes as well when we saw Frueza, and she is obviously the user of the Strength Force. And then during this episode, we obviously had these Force lightning colors scattering across the lounge of Star Labs, until this lightning formed a body and dropped Nora, or the embodiment of the Speed Force in Star Labs, and she is hurt. Now, we then have another geothermal isotope reading with the lightning once again, but this time we ended up seeing Psych. So the thing over here is that these Force users are actually the embodiment of the Forces itself. Now, the reason these lightning colors start scattering across is actually because these forces are forming a human body as these geothermal isotopes begin to appear. Because if you guys would remember, during the end of the episode, Nora Allen, or once again the embodiment of the Speed Force, mentioned that Psych and Frueza are just like her. So they are their own forces. So just like how Nora Allen is the embodiment of the Speed Force, Psych is the embodiment of the Sage Force. Frueza is the embodiment of the Strength Force, and most probably Steadfast will be the embodiment of the Still Force. So these aren't regular human beings, these are also cosmic entities just like Nora, which is why they are so powerful, and that they aren't just normal ordinary metas. They are the literal embodiment of the force that they possess, which is why when Barry, for example, threw lightning at Psych, it was useless. In fact, Psych was able to absorb it, just like how Frueza was able to absorb it during episode 4 as well. Now, during the episode, we obviously had Team Flash gathered around in the lounge, and geothermic isotope readings began to appear once again in which we see a body, and Barry obviously rushes to check it out, and it's the embodiment of the Speed Force, and she's begging for help. Now throughout the episode, she was obviously in a coma, but that is until the end of the episode where she wakes up and says that she wasn't fast enough and that Psych as well as Frueza have attacked the Speed Force. So what does this mean? Now throughout the show, we have had slight hints in the past in regards to these forces, such as Turtle 2.0 for example, who literally had the Still Force. But throughout the show, we only knew of one cosmic energy which has existed, that being the Speed Force. So how is it now that these random forces begin to appear? So my theory over here is that the Speed Force was the most powerful force which existed, and the Speed Force knew that these different forces, so the Sage Force, the Strength Force, and the Still Force, could pose a threat. Maybe because they had antagonizing plans or something. So due to how powerful the Speed Force was compared to them, the Speed Force basically generated this force barrier, preventing the other forces to prevail and continue with their plans. But then the Speed Force obviously died during the back half of the Flash season 6, and as the Speed Force got weaker and weaker, it was a lot easier for the other forces to break through this barrier, but it was still hard. But then when Team Flash revived the Speed Force, not only did it give the Speed Force its power back, but it also allowed these other forces to break through the barrier as well. So the Sage Force, the Strength Force, and the Still Force combined are as equally as strong as the Speed Force. And to basically be more dominant, the Strength Force and the Sage Force, in the form of Psych and Frueza, weakened the Speed Force, which is why Nora ended up in Star Labs begging for help, because these threats are like seriously powerful. And maybe they weakened the Speed Force in order to do something, whether it's to rid of the Speed Force and they battle it out to see who is the more dominant force or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. It could also be that when Team Flash helped revive the Speed Force, maybe these forces ended up being connected in some way, and then that was what resulted into these different forces existing with the Speed Force and us just finding out about them during the Flash season 7. Again, I'm not entirely sure, these are just theories. Now during the end of the episode, Barry obviously ended up getting more severe headaches, in which he ended up going back into cryo sleep. Maybe because he has been weakened due to his recent battles with Frueza and right after that with Psych. I'm not entirely sure about that. And by the looks of it, again in the trailer, due to the lack of Barry for next episode, I think Barry will still be in the cryo temperature chamber during at least the majority of episode 6. Maybe he leaves towards the end of the episode. I'm not entirely sure. But during the episode, we obviously had Team Flash going to confront Psych. Now the thing about this is, Psych uses his powers on all 3 members of Team Flash. For Frost, we obviously saw her getting arrested, and that is obviously foreshadowing to episode 7, where we will see Frost become arrested due to Chillblaine framing her. With Barry, we obviously ended up seeing his loved ones die. So we saw Cisco, Iris, Caitlin, all of them are pretty much dead on the ground in CCPD. But we didn't get to see what Cisco's vision was. We obviously saw Psych possess all 3 members of Team Flash, but we only got to see Frost and Barry's vision. We didn't get to see Cisco's at all. All we saw from Cisco was that after he got possessed and he was in this nightmare which we didn't see, he utters the words, no, this cannot be how it ends. And obviously he ends up covering up later on in the episode by saying he saw Camilla die. But clearly that's not what he saw. That is obviously a lie, and we do know that he was clearly lying. Now the reason to why they didn't show Cisco's vision is that it's possibly going to play out later on into the season. Maybe this is Psych showing Cisco a vision of a possible future which will take place, but like in a nightmare form, saying that they showed Barry and Frost's vision but they didn't show what Cisco's is, meaning it's going to be something of relevance. So they are definitely going to show it eventually, but not for this episode. So maybe what's going on over here is that Psych showed Cisco a vision of a possible future, but not like what will end up happening. It's just a version of a possible future, and that ends up scaring Cisco. And maybe like, you know, they try to change that future based on that vision, so that leads into like a good ending or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. But lastly, to go over, we have Kristen Kramer at CCPD telling Joe that she isn't happy with the way CCPD are dealing with metahumans, and she wants to make sure that Frost is apprehended so that she pays for her past crimes. Now, for episode 7 of season 7, from the synopsis, we do know that Frost will get arrested due to Chilblain framing her for murder. And from Iris's investigation during episode 5, we find out that Kristen Kramer isn't as bright as she seems. So what if Kristen Kramer is actually working with Chilblain to get Frost apprehended? I don't know. I think that would be a very interesting twist, and I guess we will have to wait and see. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to tell me in the comment section down below whether you guys have any other ideas in regards to this Force's storyline, or with what happened to Barry, or if you guys have any ideas with what will happen to Frost. I'm interested to see all of your thoughts towards all of this as well. As you guys know, I do read most of my comments, so be sure to share a comment down below. I will make sure that I see it. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.